Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into a true crime story that's got everyone talking: the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson.
Yeah, it's a really wild one.
It really is, and what makes it even more fascinating is the suspect, Luigi Mangione. He's a young Ivy League grad who, on the surface, seemed to have it all.
Right.
So let's unpack this case and see what we can uncover.
Well, the case started out not your usual shooting. There was almost a theatrical element to it. The police found shell casings with words inscribed on them.
Oh, wow.
Things like delay, deny, and depose. Terms you usually hear when people are criticizing health insurance companies and their tactics.
It's like something straight out of a movie or something. Those clues definitely point to something more than just a random act of violence.
Right, and then there's Mangione himself. 26 years old, from a wealthy Baltimore family, successful software engineer, a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania. Like, who would suspect someone like that?
Yeah, it's baffling. So let's start with the timeline. What happened and when?
Okay, so Thompson was shot and killed on December 4th outside a Hilton hotel in Manhattan. He was there for an investor meeting for his company, United Health Group, which is a major player in the healthcare industry. Then, 5 days later, Mangione was arrested at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Someone recognized him from the surveillance footage that the police released.
At a McDonald's. It's
Yeah.
kind of crazy how these things happen.
Yeah.
So what about the evidence? What did they find on Mangione when they arrested him?
Well, this is where it gets even more interesting. He had a ghost gun, which is basically an untraceable firearm with a silencer, and it matched the description of the weapon used in the shooting. But there's more.
Oh, gosh.
He also had multiple fake IDs, a large sum of cash, and most chillingly, a handwritten manifesto expressing anger towards corporate America.
The manifesto.
Yeah.
Did it say anything about why he might have targeted Thompson specifically?
There was a line in there that said, "These parasites had it coming." While it doesn't specifically name Thompson, given the context of those shell casings and then his actions later on, it definitely suggests a motive connected to corporate America, maybe even specifically the healthcare industry.
This is like a puzzle, trying to
Yeah.
connect all the pieces. So we have the cryptic messages on the shell casings, a manifesto, and then this young man who doesn't seem like the type to commit such a crime. It's really strange. What can you tell us about his family and their connection to healthcare?
Well, his family has a long history in both real estate and healthcare.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Baltimore. His father was a prominent developer, and his mother was a physician. So healthcare wasn't some abstract concept to him, it was part of his life growing up.
So it was in his blood, so to speak.
Right.
Now, did Mangione himself have any personal experiences with the healthcare system that could have contributed to this possible anger?
Well, there are reports that he suffered from chronic back pain. Yeah, and even underwent spinal surgery at some point. Now, we're speculating here, but maybe that experience, along with his family's background, gave him a very unique and potentially negative perspective on the healthcare industry. It's certainly a possibility.
That's definitely something to consider. So we have this complex picture emerging. A young man with a privileged background, a possible personal grudge against the healthcare system, and now this violent act.
There's also his online activity that we need to look at. He was
Yeah.
very active on social media, posting about science and technology, and even shared his reading list.
Oh, that's interesting. Did any of those posts reveal anything about his views on healthcare or corporate America?
No, not really. Nothing overtly political or focused on healthcare in his posts, but what really caught the attention of investigators was his interest in the Unabomber's manifesto.
Wait, the Unabomber? You mean the guy who sent bombs to people?
Yeah.
The one who was against technology?
Yeah, that's right. And Mangione even reviewed it on Goodreads.
Wow, what did he say?
Well, he acknowledged the violence of the Unabomber's actions, but he also described him as a political revolutionary.
That's pretty chilling considering what happened.
It really is. Makes you wonder how much of his online activity was just intellectual curiosity and how much of it reflected his real-world beliefs.
Yeah, was this some kind of foreshadowing? It's hard to say.
It is, and it gets even more complex when you consider that some of his friends online expressed concern over his sudden silence in the months leading up to the shooting.
Oh, wow. So he just went dark.
It seems that way. Could this have been a period where he was becoming more radicalized? We don't know for sure.
It's a scary thought. While we're trying to understand what might have motivated Mangione, we also need to talk about the impact of this crime. Thompson's death has really struck a nerve with the public, hasn't it?
Absolutely. This case has tapped into a much wider feeling of frustration and anger that many Americans have towards the healthcare system.
Yeah, you see it everywhere in the news on social media. People are outraged,
Some even see Mangione as a symbol of that anger.
even though they condemn his actions.
Exactly. It's a very complicated and emotional reaction.
I've even seen some people calling him a folk hero, which is just crazy.
It's disturbing for sure. While it's understandable to be angry about problems in the healthcare system, violence is never the answer.
Right.
It's important to remember that Thompson was a person. He was someone's father, husband, friend. Glorifying his death regardless of your views on healthcare is just wrong.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So where does this leave us? We have a suspect who seemed to have everything going for him, yet he's now facing some very serious charges. What's next for Mangione?
Well, legally speaking, he's facing charges of murder, gun possession, and forgery in New York, and he'll also be facing charges in Pennsylvania for the items they found on him when he was arrested.
Right.
His attorney has said he'll plead not guilty, so a trial is definitely on the horizon.
So this is going to go on for a while.
It seems likely, but the NYPD has also expressed concern that others might see Mangione as some kind of martyr, a hero who stood up to the system.
A martyr. That's a dangerous way to view someone who's accused of murder.
Exactly. It highlights a very real fear that this case could inspire copycat attacks.
Wow, that's a terrifying thought.
It is. It shows just how deep the anger and frustration with healthcare run in some segments of society.
We've talked about the evidence against Mangione, his background, and the public's reaction to this crime, but there's still so much we don't know.
Yeah.
What are investigators focusing on now?
Well, they're trying to piece together a complete picture of Mangione's life in the months leading up to the shooting. They're looking at his online activity, financial records, and personal relationships to see if there are any additional clues that might explain his actions.
So they're leaving no stone unturned.
It seems that way. There's a lot of speculation, but we need to wait for the facts to emerge.
I guess that's all we can do for now.
Ciao.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what are some of the key takeaways you think our listeners should keep in mind?
I think the most important thing to remember is that this case is incredibly complex. There's a lot more to it than meets the eye. It's a story about a shocking crime, a seemingly unlikely suspect, and a deeply flawed system that's causing a lot of pain and anger.
Right.
It's a reminder that we need to be having honest conversations about the challenges facing our healthcare system and finding solutions that address the root causes of that anger and frustration.
We can't just ignore these issues and hope they go away. We need to find ways to make the system work better for everyone. It's really clear that this whole case has touched a nerve and brought to light a lot of the frustrations people feel when it comes to healthcare.
Yeah, and you know what's concerning is this whole idea of Mangino as some kind of folk hero.
Right.
It's dangerous, especially in the age of social media where misinformation and extreme viewpoints can spread so quickly.
Yeah, it's like a wildfire.
Exactly, and it's crucial to remember that violence is never acceptable, no matter how frustrated you are.
I think this case really highlights how social media can make those kinds of dangerous narratives even worse. I mean, we saw how Mangione engaged with extremist content online. Now some people are trying to make him into something he's not.
It is a disturbing trend. It makes you wonder how we can combat online radicalization and the spread of misinformation.
Right. It feels like we're walking a tightrope here. On the one hand, people have a right to express their frustrations, especially when it comes to something as important as healthcare.
Right.
But on the other hand, we can't let those frustrations lead to violence.
It's a delicate balance, and I think it requires a multifaceted approach. We need to address the issues within the healthcare system that are causing these frustrations, but at the same time, we need to confront dangerous ideologies and promote responsible online behavior.
I keep thinking about that handwritten manifesto they found on Mangione. Do you think it could offer more clues about his motive, or is it more of a reflection of his state of mind at the time?
It's tough to say for sure. Investigators are definitely poring over it for any insights.
Yeah.
But what's clear is that it reflects a deep anger towards corporate America. And maybe, as we've discussed, the healthcare industry in particular.
Right.
Whether this anger was fueled by personal experience, exposure to extremist ideologies, or a combination of factors that remains to be seen.
This case is a sobering reminder that even seemingly ordinary people can be driven to do extreme things.
It's true.
It's been a whirlwind of twists and turns, and honestly, we're left with more questions than answers.
I agree, but even with all the unknowns, I think this deep dive has given us a valuable look into some of the most pressing issues facing our society today.
Yeah, like what?
Well, complexities of the healthcare system, the dangers of online radicalization, and the need for open and honest dialogue to address these
It's
challenges.
a powerful takeaway.
Mm.
This case is a tragedy, a life lost, a family grieving a young man facing serious consequences, and a society grappling with deep-seated anxieties.
It really is.
It's a stark reminder that we need to be more vigilant, both as individuals and as a society, in addressing the root causes of these issues before they escalate into violence.
I couldn't agree more. We can't afford to ignore these warning signs. We need to work towards building a more just and compassionate world where everyone feels heard, understood, and valued.
I like that.
And that starts with each of us engaging in meaningful conversations, challenging our own biases, and seeking solutions that benefit everyone.
Absolutely. Well said. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a heavy topic, but one that deserves our attention. We encourage you to continue exploring these complex issues, stay informed, and engage in constructive dialogue. Until next time, stay curious.